Hey everyone, this is Nick with City Rock Hunting, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be looking for Native American landmarkers around us here in Michigan, also known as bent trees. We're going to see if we can age the few that are around me here, see if we can determine if they were old enough to be around back then, roughly 200 years. Let's have some fun, see what we can find out today. Thanks for coming along, everybody. I appreciate it. So here are a few examples, so we know what to look for out here. I'll also show the process of bending trees with a diagram here. I don't really want to bend any trees out here in the woods. I could show you how it's done, but they're a little cold and brittle, and I don't want to be snapping branches that we don't need to. All about saving life out here. As you can see, there's quite a few dead trees laying down. We don't need any more. So we come to our first one here. They're usually always bent right off the ground or above the ground slightly. And they all come in different shapes and forms, depending on how they grew. This one here was bent down real low. Let's see if we can age this tree here. There's a couple limbs that are bent over. This one could have been done when they were grading the path here. So let's try and figure it out. So one good point that these trees are doing that leads me towards Native American is the fact that they are bent pointing straight at a water source. There's a pond back here, and at one time I can tell it used to be way higher, and they're pointing straight at the middle of it. So let's age these trees, see what we can find out. So to determine how old this tree is, what you're supposed to do is use the growth factor chart shown here. You want to take the circumference of the tree about 4.5 feet off the ground, divide that by pi 3.14, and multiply that by the type of tree it is for its growth factor. So based on this tree alone here, this tree averages around 57 years old. So it's not old enough to be native. Still really cool example of what we're looking for. Let's move on to the next one, see what we can find out there. So we've moved on to our next tree here. This one, I can't tell if it is really bent or if it grew naturally this way. What are your thoughts? It's definitely a good landmarker. Right next to a pond, another pond. Let's see if we can age this one, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely old enough. So this tree here has a circumference of 90 inches, 4.5 feet off the ground. Divide that by pi 3.14, and you get just over 28. Times that by its growth factor of 7, and you get 200 years. So this tree is roughly 200 years old. It's definitely the right age. What do you guys think? Does this tree look naturally bent, or was it shaped this way? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments here on what you think about this one. To me, I believe it should be more kind of parallel with the ground, but you never really know. Definitely a cool tree either way. Alright, we'll move on to the next one here. Thanks, everyone. So we're on to the next one here. This one I can already tell is probably too young. And being next to this road here, gravel road, and seeing that it was graded on the edges, this one probably got damaged in the making of the road, but didn't die and continued to grow itself. But we're going to age it anyways, just to be sure. So based on the size of the tree here, we can estimate that this tree is roughly 60 years old. So not old enough to be native, but that puts it in ballpark for the making of the road. That's still super cool. We'll move on to the next one here. So we walked just a little bit further down that road. Came across another one right next to the road, and in a mound that looks like it was built up around it. So it was also probably knocked over during the making of this gravel road. So you can see that the roots on the backside have been kind of pushed up and out, lifted off the ground. So it definitely makes sense that this one was built during the making of the road, just like the last one. This one also roughly 60 years old, which makes sense. So we'll move on to one more, unless we find more on the way. So we came across another one here, just a little bit further down the road. These are all definitely too close together, I would say, to be markers. But in the making of this road, that makes sense. So this one's a little bit thicker than the last two, diameter wise. But being a different tree, it has a different growth factor. We're still looking at around 60 years. So that's really cool to know. We'll move on to more. This next tree here is probably the biggest pine tree I've ever seen. And you can kind of see that bent tree in the background there. But I wanted to show you this pine tree. I'm 6'4" and I can't even wrap my hands halfway around it. It's the biggest tree I know of out here. We're gonna age it and see how old it is. Super pretty tree. I always love this one. So based on its size, which was a little tough to measure without two people, this tree is roughly 250 years old, which is pretty cool. Definitely super pretty. It's one of my favorite trees out here in the woods. So next to my favorite tree here, and next to this really big lake, here's another bent tree. This one technically could be formed from something rolling downhill, like a big boulder rock or another tree even landed on this one when it was young. It's definitely really a good example though. So let's take the age of this one and see what we can find out. So after doing the math, this tree is roughly 80 years old. So definitely an old tree still, and a really good example of a bent tree. That's what we're looking for, but I don't think it's native. So we'll keep searching. So we're out here looking for old trail markers. Just came across a modern trail marker here. Little clip on a tree with a reflector. Whoever's coming out here, probably doing some hunting. Looks like an older style clip. We'll keep looking for more bent trees. Well, we're gonna start heading back now. I don't know of any more bent trees around me here. I do know of one that I saw yesterday after I picked up Lily from her friend's house. So there will definitely be a part 2 to this video, because that one definitely has some age to it, and it's a great bent tree example. So there'll definitely be more. Well, that's gonna do it for today's adventure. I really appreciate everyone stopping by. There will be a part 2 to this. We'll find some more bent trees. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.